3. Hello. Right, it's April 3rd of virus time, and we are going to have. Oh, there's evidence that my other daughter is awake. She's just liked a post I sent her on Instagram. 12:30 she got up yesterday. We're going to look at this extract from William Gibson's Neuromancer from 1984. Hope I'm not infringing too many copyright laws here. I can't imagine William Gibson would mind if we're using it for educational purposes. So first thing then, if you might just be annotating it, you might just be making separate notes. Can we start? What would go in our introduction if we know this book was written in 1984? Start typing, I'm going to start singing. And I've got Moana in my head. It's an older dystopia. What can I say? Computers and that were being invented, weren't they? Yeah, Lily, they were. You sound like Stuart Lee there more than Lily Lee. Fears over technological advancements, not of the first. Right, so Thomas, you've clarified what you mean. So the dystopian literature has advanced, hasn't it, in the 8 decades since it kind of is first conceived almost. And Americans were scared about globalization. That's a good point. But yeah, we're definitely in the world of technological advancements. So 1984, I was 9. People didn't have computers, right, en masse. If you had a computer in your home, wow. People didn't have mobile phones. It just wasn't a thing. The Cold War was, our relations with Russia were still testy, I guess. And you stole that from film. Oh, well, good. You didn't steal it from film. You transferred knowledge across subjects, Freya, which is the whole point of the sixth form experience. Like that, don't you? Yeah, so should we dive straight in? I'm going to read you this first bit, and then you're going to tell me what I should highlight. Okay. Lifeless neon spelled out metro holographics in dusty capitals of glass tubing. Case picked at a shred of bacon that had lodged between his front teeth. He'd given up asking her where they were going and why. Jabs in the ribs and the sign for silence were all he'd got in reply. She talked about the season's fashions, about sports, about a political scandal in California he'd never heard of. Right. So I don't want to go too in depth now. I'm literally doing my skim. So just anything that I instantly know I want to come back to here, please. Right, so just tell me what I'm highlighting, Thomas, literally like the start of the sentence. So he'd given up asking her where they were going and why. So there's something about, there are 2 people in this, and we're assuming the woman is in charge. Yeah, metro holographics, that's obviously important. Lifeless neon, good. And jabs in the ribs. Yeah. Okay, that'll do for now. Let's move on. Can you see it? All right, kind of. Just getting that bit there, isn't it? He looked around the deserted dead-end street. A sheet of newsprint went cartwheeling past the intersection. Freak winds in the east side, something to do with convection and an overlap in the domes. Case peered through the window at the dead sign. Her sprawl wasn't his sprawl, he decided. She'd led him through a dozen bars and clubs he'd never seen before, taking care of business, usually with no more than a nod, maintaining connections. Right, definitely getting more dystopian, isn't it? So what am I highlighting now? Maintaining connections. Yeah, the newsprint's interesting, isn't it? Why is stuff deserted? Seems post-apocalyptic. Yeah. Yeah, alliterative effect of dead and deserted. Good. Brilliant. Grace is in there with the AO2. John, you don't have to type. You can just tell me. Where's my other dead?
It's lower down. It's on.
Oh, there, the dead sign.
Yeah.
I think there's something else. There are two big things I think you're missing. And you remember you're looking for anything that just goes, makes you think, I'm not sure about that. Why is that there? Or I don't understand that.
Her sprawl wasn't his sprawl.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you, Megan. Megan's there. What's sprawl? It's capitalised. It's a proper noun. So what is it? Frequins. Yeah. Good. And what's this overlap in the domes? Again, just our first read through, all stuff to come back to, isn't it? This really is this camera. Something was moving in the shadows behind Metro holographics. Dun, dun, dun. The door was a sheet of corrugated roofing. In front of it, Molly's hands flowed through an intricate sequence of jive that he couldn't follow. He caught the sign for cash, a thumb brushing the tip of the forefinger. The door swung inward, and she led him into the smell of dust. They stood in a clearing, dense tangles of junk rising on either side to walls lined with shelves of crumbling paperbacks. The junk looked like something that had grown there, a fungus of twisted metal and plastic. He could pick out individual objects, but then they seemed to blur back into the mass, the guts of a television so old it was studded with the glass stumps of vacuum tubes, a crumpled dish antenna, a brown fibre canister stuffed with corroded lengths of alloy tubing. An enormous pile of old magazines had cascaded into the open area. Flesh of lost summers staring blindly up as he followed her back through a narrow canyon of impacted scrap. He heard the door close behind them. He didn't look back. Right, so, good, you've already given me ideas. Grace has given us the idea of decay. What would I highlight for that, Grace, particularly? Got fungus, disease growing within, macabre imagery of guts and flesh. Good. Which would help if I could find it. So we've got the fungus, guts, the flesh was over there, wasn't it? Flesh of lost summers. The loss of literature with the crumbling paperbacks. Oh. Yeah. It's the natural imagery juxtaposed with the artificial stuff. Loss of literature, loss of culture. This is really great. Good. I like all of this. Anything else though? Again, you're missing something that's quite important. Just read back over that one. Go on. Yeah, Lily and Jack are there about language. So an intricate sequence of jive. And we've had it earlier, actually. He jabs in the ribs and the sign for silence. It's just sign language, not words. Right, why? That's okay. Right, so we'll come back to that. The tunnel ended with an ancient army blanket tacked across the doorway. White light flooded out as Molly ducked past it. Four square walls of blank white plastic, ceiling to match, floored with white hospital tile, moulded in a non-slip pattern of small raised discs. In the centre stood a square, white painted wooden table. In the centre stood a square, white painted wooden table and 4 white folding chairs. Anything there?
The ancient army blanket.
Has anyone read? Oh God, what's it called? It's different to what we've just seen about all the decay. Yeah, I'm just. Oh, it's not the jar off. Hang on. Yeah, so we've got a contrast here, haven't we, with the archaic stuff, all the stuff that's crumbling, and then suddenly you've got this kind of very, if not modern, at least something kind of clean. I'm trying to find a book which I think is just called Civil War, but it's a really good dystopian about a modern civil war in America. Right, okay. I'll keep looking for that while I'm. White light suggests purity. It could have religious connotations. Yeah. So what is it about the white light that we're finding intriguing, at least? Again, not everything that you identify is going to be something that you definitely want to discuss, but if we're noticing it, we can then decide what we don't want to write about just as much as what we do. I think that's really important. Okay. Sorry, that's really, I can't get it, I can't kind of get the book flat enough, if you know what I mean. Oh my gosh, did you hear that? That was my tummy rumbling. That's really bad. Sorry about that. The man who stood blinking now in the doorway behind them, the blanket draping up one shoulder like a cape, seemed to have been designed in a wind tunnel. His ears were very small, plastered flat against his narrow skull, and his large front teeth, revealed in something that wasn't quite a smile, were canted sharply backwards. He wore an ancient tweed jacket and held a handgun of some kind in his left hand. He peered at them, blinked, and dropped the gun into a jacket pocket. He gestured to Case, pointed at a slab of white plastic that leaned near the doorway. Case crossed to it and saw that it was a solid sandwich of circuitry, nearly a centimetre thick. He helped the man lift it and position it in the doorway. Quick, nicotine-stained fingers secured it with a white Velcro border. A hidden exhaust fan began to purr. It has no depth, as in it doesn't seem original. Can't find the bit with no depth.
That was from the last paragraph, I think. I think it was maybe about the white light.
No, can't see it.
Yeah, the white light, yeah. That we've already highlighted in the other one.
Oh, I see, sorry. Could the white act in contrast to drinking? Right, yeah, I think clinical was the word I was looking for, Grace. Yeah, good. Okay, what about this one then? Sorry. Are you getting some ideas? The description of the man is disgusting. The ancient tweed is out of place, and the fact that the new character has been designed right. Good. I'm glad you've got that word designed. We've got the ancient tweed jacket. Semantic field of archaisms created with the ancient tweed. Where are the other archaisms? You need more than one, don't you? There was one before with clothing. I think there was the ancient army blanket, wasn't there? The idea that his ears were small represents the idea that language is no longer spoken but interpreted. That's interesting. Anything else?
The fact that he's got a gun.
Yeah. Why has he got a gun? And it's and a handgun. So there's a constant tension, isn't there, between like modern, almost sci-fi stuff, and then this ancient idea to do. That's the safety gate going. Sounds like my little boy's asleep again. I'm trying to keep him awake till 12, and it's just impossible. But 11:30's progress. It's like two worlds colliding. Yeah, definitely. I like. Go on, John.
He mentions that the slab of the solid sandwich of circuitry, which I think is a great phrase anyway, but that's white, and then the light before was white, so maybe there's some kind of motif going on of technology being the color white, or was it white light coming from a light in the distance?
The white light flooded out. There's a white plastic ceiling and white painted wooden table, so everything's quite clinical. The sandwich thing is, I just imagine it as you know what a circuit board looks like, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a big. Imagine a sandwich of like circuit boards. It's just incongruous, isn't it, to use that word sandwich? Yeah, case isn't sure. Yeah, exactly. So, and the nicotine stained fingers. There's so much to still secure this extract, which is set in the future in our world, isn't there? There's so much familiarity. And I think I ended it here, didn't I? We need a scan, Finn, for implants. Is that where I ended it for you? Yeah. Okay, so what do we want to say about that? Yeah, so implants of what, for whom, just the idea that so now we know why Molly and Case are at this person's building. They're there because they need a scan for implants. It's also ambiguous and seems far removed. Far removed from what, Thomas? Reality? Yeah. The narrative perspective. What does that mean? It seems they're confused and not actually there. All right. I'm not sure I know what you mean. Sorry. They're definitely there, aren't they? Because there's so much detail about the setting. Okay, right. That's knocked your confidence a little bit, hasn't it? That was only our first read through. So let's have a think now about, I don't get what's happening, it's so confusing. Right, so
I think that is the intention.
Yeah, it is. It is the intention. Case is following Molly to a building that he's never been to before. So he's apprehensive. He's not sure what's going on. She won't tell him what's going on and just keeps giving him the hand signal for silence. So we are, in as much, is Molly a computer thing? Molly is the woman that he's with at the moment, right? And I think the idea is that we're introduced to a setting which is both familiar and unfamiliar. This setting, I think, is the sprawl. Yeah. It says she's a cyborg in the intro. So that might help us with this, with the implants. Yeah, why might you want to be scanned? I think as literature students, the reason that you find this unseen extract so challenging is because usually when we talk about an extract from a text, we know the whole book, don't we? And we're making links between that and other things. And here, you're taken right out of your comfort zone and you're being told, make links between this and your understanding of genre, and forget about worrying about whether you know what's going on or not. Because and I want you to stop feeling scared of that and start to feel freed by it. You know, this isn't testing your knowledge of the story because you don't know the story. It's testing what you know about the features of the genre. So I suggest that that's what we move on to now, yeah? We've already got quite a few ideas. Get a piece of paper. What can I say except you're welcome? That'll do. Let's do some recycling of paper here. Every time I move the camera slightly, the connection's really loose. Oh, I know why. It's because I dropped it on the floor this morning. Oh dear. Right, never mind. Yeah, Lily, I think I like the unseen as well. I guess because I'm just more confident in knowing I'm not supposed to know. So what are the main ideas that we've got so far? Tell me what I'm writing down here of how I would how would I group my ideas? So setting. And within that, we've got technological future and with the familiar made unfamiliar. So that would be 1 point. Okay? And I've put all my examples in there. What's next? What else am I writing about? Language. Yep. So we've got the stuff about the jive. You said about the small ears. Come on now. Why might you want to communicate with hand signals instead of talking? Safety is prescribed. Surveillance. Yeah. Right. That's 2 points. Remember, a point is not a paragraph. You can have more than one paragraph in a point. Right. What else? What are the jives? The signals. Grease. Let's do the hand jive, baby. Right, relationships. So people. So the relationship between Case and Molly. What's he called? Finn and Molly. Maintaining connections. Yeah, like who are they? How are they being presented? Are they the kinds of characters that we see in dystopian fiction? To a certain extent, yeah. There's a lack of communication between Case and Finn. One's got more power than the other. Oh, Julie, by the way, I've written that essay about the frightening future. Is it meant to be handed in? I didn't set it as I said I was going to set it, and then I got a bit stressed about how far behind I was in my marking. But I think I will set it as an essay, and I'll put the deadline for next Friday. So if people get it today, they won't be too freaked out. I think, yeah, Molly contrasts with agency, but then again, look at the ants in Handmaid's Tale. Yeah. I think there's more we can say about setting and to do with the familiar made unfamiliar. What's this thing about the domes? Freak winds in the east side, something to do with convection and an overlap in the domes. Any ideas?
It definitely seems to be about kind of a post-apocalyptic climate.
Yep.
It's definitely environmental problems.
Yeah. Look at these, the sprawl. Environment replaced with technological effect, contrasting the setting in two worlds. Yeah, all of that stuff, right? Now, the exam board don't expect you to write reams and reams for this because they know that you're going to be spending 15, 20 minutes reading it, okay? So the fact that we've only come up with 1, 2, 3 kind of ideas there, I reckon my thing on setting is easily going, I reckon I could probably get almost a page of writing just about setting. And I think that is the kind of key focus of this extract, isn't it? I want to say something else about oh yeah, the fungus reminded me of the reef in Oryx and Crake. Things kind of, a lot of the time we imagine this like technological future as being really clean, don't we? And everything's white. What's that film? Is it called Mother?
The
Where
Darren Aronofsky one?
no, it's where AI is creating humans and then like basically binning the ones that she doesn't like. Everything's clinical, everything's clean. But what Gibson is saying is, okay, that might happen, but what do you do with all the stuff that we've already got? The junk shop, in 1984. It's not so easy, is it, to get rid of stuff? There are going to be hangovers all the time. So easily, I'm going to have a lot to write about that because setting is so important. We talk often about the setting being an antagonist in dystopian fiction. I'm not seeing it as an antagonist here, but I am seeing it as something that has to be approached warily. You've got to navigate it carefully. That's nice, Grace. The leftovers of the old world only emphasise the new. So in between those two paragraphs, you get the something was moving in the shadows behind metro holographics. It's like suddenly something's quite ominous there, isn't it? I was about to say something about handing in work. I've been getting emails from students going, I can't concentrate, I can't do the whole essay. I'd say in terms of like your own mental health and feeling like you're keeping on top of things, what if you just submitted a plan? What if you wrote me an introduction and 1 point? As long as you're doing something to keep going, especially you first years kind of ticking over. John, is there anything else? Those are kind of my 3 big ideas of how I would approach. Is there anything?
The thing that kind of stuck out to me was the tension across the whole extract and the ambiguity about it. It kind of reminded me a lot of various other dystopias where you've got like even in like Fahrenheit 451, where you've got a character who doesn't really know everything about the world, who doesn't really know everything that's going on in it, and also the kind of inter-individual tension of like the guy's got a handgun, he's saying time and counting. It's very kind of it's suspense there that you do find across the genre in stuff like 1984 and Handmaid's Tale and things where it's just
these are uncomfortable reads, aren't they? Time, the man said, straightening up and counting. The rate Moll, so that suggests that Moll's been there before. She's done this before. But Case, this is totally new world for Case. This is something he's got to. Who's fancying reading it after this extract? Anybody?
Pretty good.
It's very well written. It's not an easy read, as you can see here. There's a lot of jargon, and you just have to trust that you're maybe not going to understand all of the jargon straight away, but as you keep going with it, it will become more clear. I'm definitely going back to this today. I finished my Paul Auster last night, Moon Palace, which was just absolutely gorgeous and just quite a straightforward story about fathers and sons, if I'm honest, and storytelling. Fathers, sons, and storytelling. Yeah, it was really, really good. So, what do you want to do now? Do you want to just leave that there and have a little go at even just trying to write up a point? Maybe? Tell me your thoughts.
Sounds good.
Can you get it online? Yeah, that's how I got the extract, Jess. I just there's if you just Google it as a PDF, that's how I got it. Beloved, I read a very long time ago. Yeah, I think I've got it downstairs. Someone, I was going to say something then. What was I going to say? It must have been a lie. What are your Friday night plans then? Oh, I was going to say this is the hardest bit about doing these lessons online, because usually in the classroom, I really get a sense of the mood of the class. So what I probably do in an actual lesson now is say, okay, why don't we take 10 minutes and let's write the introduction. You write it, I'll sit at the computer and I'll write it, and let's see where we get to. That's the bit I'm really missing, and I guess you're missing it too as well. It's just that interaction of just feeling the mood a little bit. Can't be helped though, can it? Can't be helped. Right. I'm going to stop the recording now. Grace is going to go and eat before she dies. So the